Here's something that doesn't get talked about enough. You've done the training, you've hit the numbers, you've tapered properly. You line up at the start line and your heart rate is already 130 beats per minute and you haven't even turned a pedal. Your legs feel heavy, your breathing is shallow, your head is full of everything that could go wrong, and then the race or the event starts and you're nowhere near the performance you know you're capable of. Afterwards, the conclusion is usually the same: wasn't fit enough, need to train harder, but that is often wrong. The fitness was there, the problem was anxiety. Pre-race nerves are universal. Every athlete experiences them, but most athletes don't understand what's actually happening in their body and their brain when that anxiety hits. And because they don't understand it, they can't manage it. This video explains the psychology and the physiology of competitive anxiety, why it exists, when it helps, when it hurts, and what you can actually do about it. First, let's be clear about what we're talking about. Anxiety before competition isn't one thing, it's a couple of things happening at once. Cognitive anxiety is the mental side, the worry, the negative thoughts, the what ifs, the what if I get dropped, what if I blow up, what if I've not done enough. Somatic anxiety is the physical side, the racing heart, the shallow breathing, the sweating, the butterflies in the stomach, the shaky legs, the constant need to pee. That's somatic anxiety. So they're related, but they're different, and they affect performance differently. Research shows cognitive anxiety, the worry, tends to have a linear negative relationship with performance. The more you're mentally spiraling, the worse you perform. That is fairly straightforward. Somatic anxiety follows more of a curve. Some physical activation is good. It means your body is preparing for effort. Too much is bad. Too little is also bad. There's a sweet spot that we want to hit. Here's the important distinction. Somatic anxiety, the physical symptoms, usually peak just before the start and then drop off once you're actually racing. The body settles once there's something to do. Cognitive anxiety can stay high throughout the event. If you're still worrying mid-race, that's a problem. It doesn't just fade on its own. And here's where it gets nasty. They feed each other. You notice your heart racing. That makes you worry. The heart race more, which makes you worry more, which makes your heart race more, which makes you worry more. A feedback loop can then spiral out of control and you don't recognize what is happening. So pre-race anxiety isn't a flaw. It's not a sign that something's wrong with you. It is an evolutionary response at a physiological level. Your stress systems respond whether you're lining up for a race or facing a real genuine threat. Adrenaline dumps into your bloodstream, your heart rate increases, breathing rate increases, blood shifts to muscles, glucose gets released for quick energy, your senses sharpen. This is the fight or flight response. It exists because for most of human history, high-stakes situations were actually dangerous. The body learned to prepare. The problem is, your body prepares the same way whether you're about to race a bike or run from a predator. It doesn't know the difference. A threat is a threat. So when you're standing on the start line feeling terrible, that's not weakness. That's your nervous system doing exactly what it evolved to do. It's trying to help you survive. The challenge is that this response unmanaged can actually hurt performance rather than help it. Here's what happens physiologically when anxiety spikes before a race. Your heart rate elevates significantly before you've done any work. Cyclists often report heart rates of 120, 130, 140 beats per minute just standing on the start line. That's energy expenditure before the race has begun. More importantly, stress hormones accelerate carbohydrate metabolism. Your body starts burning through glycogen faster than it would at the same intensity in training. Research shows that elevated adrenaline and noradrenaline significantly increase carbohydrate oxidation. Athletes with high pre-race stress responses deplete glycogen faster in the early stages of competition compared to equivalent intensities in training. So just think about what that means. You could bonk earlier than expected. Your kilojoule burn at the end will be higher, not because you didn't fuel properly, not because you're not fit enough, because anxiety made your body less efficient with its fuel. Fitness was there, the fuel was there, but anxiety burned through the reserves before the race really started. The other issue is muscle tension. When you're anxious, muscles tighten. In cycling, excess tension means wasted energy. You're fighting yourself and fighting the bike instead of producing power. So pre-race anxiety has real, measurable physiological costs. It's not just in your head, it's in your muscles and your metabolism. I've experienced this myself. I thought it'd be a great idea to have a couple of caffeine gels to really give me a little bump before the start of the race. I thought I was being smart. Get the boost early, the race starts, and my heart feels like it's going to come out of my chest, pounding way beyond what the effort justified. And here's the thing, the more I noticed it, the more I worried. And the more I worried, the worse it got. I spent the first 20 minutes of this race convinced something was actually wrong with me. It wasn't. It was caffeine, adrenaline, anxiety about the caffeine, plus more adrenaline, a feedback loop, an absolute spiral. The physical symptom triggered the worry, and the worry amplified the physical symptom, which triggered more worry. And that is exactly how anxiety works. It feeds itself if you don't recognize what's happening. You can spiral for half a race before you settle. So here's where it gets more nuanced. Some pre-race arousal is actually beneficial. You don't want to be completely calm. That's not optimal. The physical activation, increased heart rate, heightened alertness, faster reactions can improve performance. It stays within a manageable range. You're primed, ready to respond. Research on optimal anxiety levels found that moderate pre-competition anxiety combined with high self-confidence produced the best performance. Not zero anxiety, moderate anxiety with confidence. The key here is interpretation. This is one of the most important findings in the research. It's not just the intensity of anxiety that matters, it's how you interpret it. Athletes who interpret their nerves as excitement and readiness tend to perform well. Athletes who interpret the same sensations as dread and impending doom tend to perform badly. Same physical symptoms, same interpretation, different outcome. Elite athletes often report that pre-competition nerves enhance their performance. They've learnt to read the butterflies as I'm ready rather than I'm in trouble. And this is trainable. You can learn to reframe what anxiety means. Come back to that later. Pre-race anxiety usually fades once the effort starts. The body has something to do. The nervous energy gets channeled, but anxiety can resurface during competition. So imagine this, you're in a race, a competitor attacks and you have to respond. The pace increases, you're not sure you can hold it. You're in the break and the gap is coming down. Fatigue is building and doubt creeps in. Mid-race anxiety. It's different from start line anxiety. It's less about anticipation and more about real-time appraisal. Can I handle this? Am I going to make it? If you perceive the situation as exceeding your ability to cope, anxiety spikes. If you perceive it as a challenge you can meet, you stay in control. The dangers of mid-race anxiety is that it can trigger a protective response. Your brain starts convincing your body to back off, not because you're at your limit, because anxiety is signaling threat. This is why you might see athletes slow down without meaning to. They ease off the pace unconsciously because the brain is trying to protect them from the perceived danger. My legs are burning, I can't sustain this, leads to backing off. My legs are burning, that's normal, keep going, leads to maintaining effort. I am the hammer versus I am the nail. Research shows that catastrophizing about sensations, interpreting normal discomfort as a sign of imminent failure, is linked to reduced pain tolerance and earlier withdrawal from effort. So what you tell yourself mid-race directly affects how long you can sustain the effort. There's another version of this that's worth talking about, anxiety about a specific part of the race before you even get there. Now, for me, I was never a climber. Not because I didn't have the power, the numbers said I could climb, but I could never translate it in races. I think it's because I started off my cycling career, at 90 kg, a sprinter. For years, I'd be in a race, I'd see a climb coming, and I start making bad decisions. I'd panic about positioning, move up too early, burn matches, or leave it too late and get stuck behind the wrong wheels. I'd hit the climb, stressed, already tight, having wasted energy I didn't need to waste. And this wasn't fitness, it was anxiety about the climb before I'd ever reached it. I decided I was bad at climbing. So every time a climb approached, my brain went into total threat mode. And threat mode makes you stupid. You don't think clearly. You react instead of execute. You make moves based on fear, not tactics. You burn energy on worry instead of saving it for the effort. You're racing against yourself before you even get to the hard part of the race. So my climbing in races didn't improve until I addressed what was happening in my head. The power was always there. The problem was I talked myself out of using it properly before the road even went uphill. It did actually get me into a few good race situations though, because I think I was almost convinced I was so bad at climbing that I decided it would be a good idea for me to get ahead of the bunch. So I often found myself in quite a few breakaways. So there is that. Now, if there's a part of racing that you dread, climbs, crosswinds, sprints, technical sections, it's worth asking how much of the problem is physical and how much is the anticipation of the problem. Sometimes the anxiety costs you more than the actual challenge would. Then there's choking, the extreme version. Choking is a significant decline in performance under high pressure. Despite the ability and desire to do well, it's not just having a bad day, it's performing far below your norm, specifically because the stakes are high. Now, there are two main explanations of this. First, distraction. Pressure generates task irrelevant thoughts. You're thinking about the outcome, the consequences, what other people will think, instead of actually executing your plan. Your attention is elsewhere when it needs to be on the task. Second, self-focus. That pressure causes you to consciously monitor movements that should be automatic. You start thinking about pedal stroke, your breathing, your positioning, and that conscious attention disrupts the fluidity of well-learned skills. Both routes lead to the same place, and that performance will fall apart. Choking might look like a rider leading a race who crashes on, I don't know, a technical section in the final minutes due to a lapse in focus, or someone who's been in the perfect position all race and completely mistimes their sprint. The research on choking interventions is interesting. The most effective strategies are pre-performance routines, pressure acclimatization, and attentional training. Pre-performance routines work because they occupy the mind with task-relevant focus. You're running through your checklist instead of worrying. Pressure acclimatization works because exposure normalizes the stress. If you're practiced under pressure, competition feels less unfamiliar. Attentional training works because it teaches you to keep focus external and process orientated rather than internal and outcome orientated. The research supports several approaches, and I'm going to go through the main ones. Self-talk. This is the most accessible and one of the most effective. Okay, I use it myself. Self-talk means using cue words or phrases to guide your thoughts. These can be instructional, like smooth pedal stroke, or motivational, like you've got this, keep pushing. A study with trained cyclists tested a 2-week self-talk intervention. Athletes learned to replace negative thoughts with positive ones during exercise. In subsequent time to exhaustion tests, the self-talk group rode 18% longer than the control group. They also reported lower perceived exertion at the same points. By changing their internal dialogue, they changed their perception of effort, and that ended up changing their performance. Self-talk works mid-race when anxiety surfaces. It's simple, free, and effective. The key thing to do is practice it in training. You don't want to be figuring out what to say to yourself in the middle of a race. Develop your phrases in training, make them automatic. Think about what triggers your anxiety and what you need to hear in those moments. Write it down, practice it during hard sessions, say it to yourself in the mirror, so when the moment comes in competition, you've got something ready. Now, breathing techniques. Slow, controlled breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It directly counters the fight or flight response. For this, I like to practice box breathing. You breathe in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, and hold for 4. Then repeat it. Deep belly breaths, slow exhale. Studies show that athletes who train this breathing pattern can reduce their anxiety and maintain better autonomic control under stress. The effects persist even weeks after training stops. Pre-performance routines. So having a consistent sequence of actions and thoughts before competition helps in 2 ways. First, it provides structure. Instead of an open window for worry, your attention is occupied by the routine. Second, it creates familiarity. When you've done the same warm-up, the same mental prep, the same cues 100 times, competition feels more like training. The novelty, which is what triggers a lot of anxiety, is reduced. This is why we have A, B, and C races. The B races means you can practice this stuff before your main event. So your routine might include physical elements like your warm-up, your stretching, mental elements, visualization, breathing, and trigger cues like a phrase or a physical gesture. The routine doesn't have to be complicated, it just has to be consistent. Something you do every time so race day feels like any other day. So reframing. This is the interpretation piece I mentioned earlier. Instead of trying to eliminate anxiety, which often backfires, you learn to reinterpret what it actually means. The physical sensations of anxiety and excitement are almost identical. Racing heart, butterflies, heightened alertness. The difference is the label you put on them. Telling yourself, I'm nervous, this is bad, creates one trajectory. Telling yourself, I'm excited, my body is ready, creates another. This isn't pretending you feel something you don't, it's recognizing the sensations are unambiguous and choosing a useful interpretation. Some athletes do this naturally, for others it takes practice, but it is learnable when you notice the nerves. Instead of fighting them or catastrophizing them, try, this is my body getting ready for the event. This is what preparation feels like. This means I care about the race. It doesn't make the sensations disappear, it changes what they mean. All right, so it was a buzzword for a little while, but mindfulness. Mindfulness training teaches you to observe thoughts and sensations without reacting to them. Instead of getting caught up in anxious thoughts, fighting them, or being overwhelmed by them, you learn to notice them and let them pass. There's anxiety, that's interesting, watch it fly away. The research on mindfulness for athletes shows moderate to large reductions in competition anxiety. It also improves flow states, that feeling of being fully absorbed in performance. Mindfulness doesn't eliminate anxiety, it changes your relationship to it. The nerves might still be there, but they lose their power to derail you. Traditional approach of trying to control or suppress anxious thoughts can sometimes backfire. The more you try not to think about something, the more you think about it. Mindfulness sidesteps this. You notice the thought, you don't engage with it, you return to the present. That's the skill. So practice under pressure. So things you can do. You can simulate pressure in training. So create consequences for outcomes, time trial in front of an audience, competition against training partners, normalize the stress response. Athletes who've been there are less likely to panic when it happens in competition. The nervous system has seen it before. This is why sprinting against your mate is going to help for you in a race. So some coaches will deliberately make training harder than the racing. Not physically harder, but psychologically harder, so that when race day comes, it feels manageable. Think about what specifically triggers your anxiety in races, then find ways to simulate that in training. If it starts, practice race starts. If it's crowds, invite people over to watch a session. If it's the final kilometers of a race, create consequences for the end of training races, or just sprint against your mate. If you lose, you're buying the coffees. The goal is to make the unfamiliar familiar, so your body doesn't treat race day as a threat. Now, putting this all together, none of these techniques work in isolation on race day if you've never practiced them. It's not a hack you apply the night before a race, it's preparation that should be built into your plan, just like physical training. The athletes who manage anxiety well in competition are the ones who've put in the work beforehand, they've built the skills, they've normalized the pressure, and they've developed the tools. If you're currently doing nothing to prepare mentally, start somewhere. Just pick one technique, practice it consistently for a few weeks, see what changes. You don't need to do everything, but you need to do something. So one more point as well. In my video on self-reflection, anxiety is another common misattribution. You have a bad race, you conclude you need to train harder, but the fitness was there, anxiety burned through your energy, disrupted your tactics, tightened your muscles, filled your head with noise. If you don't reflect properly, you miss this. You just add more training volume, and the next race, the same thing happens. Proper reflection asks, was anxiety a factor? Did I sleep badly because I was nervous? Did I go out too hard because of adrenaline? Did I make poor tactical decisions because I was mentally overwhelmed? Did I back off when I could have held on because I catastrophized the sensations? If the answer to any of those is yes, the solution isn't more fitness, it's in better management of anxiety. This is why reflection and anxiety management go together. You can't fix what you can't see, and anxiety is easy to miss if you're not looking for it. So after your next race or event, include anxiety in your debrief, rate it, Think about when it peaked and what triggered it. Consider whether it affected your decisions or your effort. Over time, you'll start to see these patterns emerge, and the patterns can be addressed. If you've got this far and you're thinking, oh, I've never suffered from anxiety, you might have. You might have just not realized it. Previous anxiety is universal. Everyone experiences it in some way. The difference is how you respond. Unmanaged anxiety has real cost: faster glycogen burn, tension in your muscles, divided attention, really poor decisions, choking at critical moments. Managed anxiety can be neutral or even beneficial. The physical activation primes you for the effort. The heightened focus sharpens your responses. Now, the goal isn't to eliminate nerves, it's to understand them, work with them, and prevent them from undermining your performance. Self-talk, breathing, routines, reframing, mindfulness, pressure exposure, these aren't soft skills. They are performance tools. If you've ever had a race where you knew the fitness was there, but the performance wasn't, anxiety is worth examining. It might be the missing piece. The power in your legs and your heart is probably there. The question is whether your head is letting you use it. So if this was useful, subscribe. I've got a few videos lined up, more in training, racing, and a little bit of sports science. So thanks for watching, saddle up, and please be kind to yourself.